Welcome to Storypunk, and I am one of the hosts, Scott.
And I am another of the hosts, Drew.
I thought I'd change it up a little bit.
That was pretty exciting.
I know.
Was really
you didn't know what was going
there.
on. You were like, you were on the edge of your seat. You're like, where's he going?
I'm glad there's a cat holding me down in this chair. I was going to float away on this flat earth.
The flat earth. Watch out for the ice wall. So this episode, we're going to talk about, this is another one of our, this is part 2 of our horror series for the month of October. It Follows, and Drew is going to be kind
I thought you were going to say It Follows Weapons.
Well, it is following weapons, but it is also the name of the movie, which is convenient.
Yes.
And Drew is going to be kind enough to give us a summary of this wonderful
I'm going to
cinematic
summarize
adventure.
it. I can tell you what it is.
Okay, there you go.
So It Follows is a horror movie from 2014, written and directed by David Robert Mitchell. It is a movie that had a very immediately intriguing premise, which is there's a monster that follows you, pretty clear from the name. It's going to kill you. It's a horror movie.
It's more of a supernatural force.
Well, essentially, it's something that it will chase you. It's inexorably going to catch you and kill you because it follows you, and it appears as
the monster.
The monster.
Yeah.
It appears as only to you that's being, that it's following. Like if it's following Scott, I can't see it, but it appears it could be someone that you know. It could be someone that you don't know that is clearly looks like they've been themselves murdered, or they're naked, or they're other eyeless, something disturbing. And the way that you get it is that someone who is being followed has the sex with you, and then you get it.
Sex.
It's like monster herpes or something.
And it would never. I see this could never happen to me because I've never had sex before.
Right. Well, you're a good boy.
I'm a good boy.
And I only think you can get this if you have sex with people who have already had sex with other people. And if you're 50, you may not find that there's a lot of partners that want to start with you. So don't feel that. Okay.
I'm a little bit older.
You're probably safe.
Stop. Oh my God.
So this is also one of the early examples. You and I were talking about this before we started recording of elevated horror.
Sure.
Like this horror that's about something kind of thing, which is not a new thing from movies that started in the mid 2010s. But this was a movie that had this really immediately clear premise, and as soon as you start watching the movie, it's got a very specific vibe and tone, and it's a movie that I saw in the theater when it came out, and I saw it once more on streaming a few years after that, and then I had not watched it in years until this week, and I watched it again, and I have the same exact reaction to it all 3 times, which is what we'll talk about. But It Follows is a horror movie from 11 years ago that we are talking about for Halloween, which is about scary stuff.
Yes. Some of the things that they deal with in this, some of the themes are, we have sort of that, the anxiety and loss of innocence as you transition into adulthood, because we are talking about teenagers here in this movie. That
When
kids
people
that are in high
traditionally may begin having the sex.
Yes. And also the idea that, some actions, even as a kid, as a teenager, can have long-lasting consequences. And one of the things that I did see that was interesting that the writer-director talked about was that the idea that this thing would just keep following you is a sort of a metaphor for the inevitability of death, where you can't stop it. So that was sort of a metaphor for that.
Yes, I wouldn't even call it a metaphor. I mean, it's literally about
that's
death
true. It is
stalking you.
It's good.
And the way, as you learn in the movie about the way that it's basically, think of it as a curse essentially that you can pass to another person. If someone is being followed and then they have sex with someone else, and it doesn't say it has to be any specific kind of sex or sex act or whatever, but it basically seems like you have to have sexual intercourse, because the main character is a girl who loses her virginity to a guy then he gives her. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Not about what losing your virginity is, you'll find out. But the idea is like this is your initiation. Sex is a big part of becoming an adult, and then there are, as you said, these consequences. Consequences can chase you for the rest of your life. That can include things like an analogy to a sexually transmitted disease, or getting pregnant, or dying, or things that have a real, obvious and permanent effect on your life. And so it's as much a sweet coming of age story about some teenage friends that have grown up together in Detroit as it is about, fighting to survive a monster.
Sure. One of the things I do like about the way that they start out the movie is that you understand within the first 3 minutes of the movie, you understand the stakes that are involved, even though you don't know the setup yet, which, we'll get to, which I think was there was a great setup.
You mean because in the very first scene of the movie.
In the very first scene in the movie, when there's a girl that drives to the beach.
We never see her again.
She's she is obviously upset about something. I believe she calls someone to tell them.
Her dad.
Yeah, and she just says that she's apologizing or whatever, and she's upset, and it's a call that is a very heartfelt call, but it seems to be made out of desperation. And then the next
and a goodbye.
Cuts. Yeah. It's very much. I don't even know if she said, but it's definitely obvious by the jump cuts to the next day, and she's dead. She's been her leg's been broken.
Yeah.
She's
dead on the beach where we last saw her in the night, and she's mutilated. And
so you understand right from,
and she's watching like something following me. Is something going to come out of the trees at me?
Yeah, she's
you
like
get
watching,
the whole thing.
She's like, you can tell that she's watching behind her car, and actually that's something when we talk more about the technical stuff. That's something I wanted to bring up about the framing of everything is very wide.
Absolutely.
So we can talk about that.
That's a big part of the mood and of the success of the feeling of the movie.
And I think that once we get beyond that, and then once we get a little further into the movie, the exposition is I do like that they just, when you find out what's really going on, and it happens pretty early on in the movie, and I feel like it's like boom, he lays it out so good. The character of what's his name? Is it Hugh? The character,
the one who passes it to her.
Yeah, so the first person that passes. I'm sorry, I kind of jumped over.
That's
that
okay.
part.
His name
is it Hugh?
It's Hugh. It's not his real name.
Yes,
but when our main character is Jay, she's played by Maika Monroe. So this is one of her first roles, and she's been in a lot of stuff, a lot of horror stuff. And she meets this guy named Hugh. She goes on some dates with him. He seems really nice, and it turns out he's not nice in some ways, but he's not who he seems to be. And his name is not Hugh.
His name, Hugh Jazz.
Yeah, right.
That should have been the first tip off. But he is.
And she doesn't get to hang out with him or his brother Jack Mayhofer.
But when they give you, it's what I like about it is there's some tension because he has her tied to a wheelchair.
Well, wait, they have sex.
Yeah,
they have sex in his car.
Yes,
and it's the way it's shot is really, it's not a lurid scene. It's actually, the movie is. There's a lot of stuff to talk about the way the movie looks and feels, but the movie is beautiful, and there's a shot that's in actually a lot of the posters and the art for the movie, which is this sedan at night parked in the grass or parked in the parking lot of an abandoned building, and there's grass coming up through the asphalt and stuff. And so they have sex in the back of the car, which is not the world's most romantic thing, but also seems like she's having a nice experience.
Yeah.
And then he chloroforms her.
Yeah,
which you do not expect.
Yeah.
What is this about?
There's nothing about that scene up until the point where he gives her the chloroform that leads you to believe that this was some kind of like there wasn't anything like non-consensual or any kind of, you didn't feel any kind of anxiety about the.
Except they go to the movies on a date. And they're sitting in the movies, and then he happens to look back, and he says, "Do you see her?" Mm-hmm. And he looks suddenly really nervous, and she's like, "I don't know what you're talking." He's like, "We got to go."
Yeah.
So he saw something, which we later. Well, but it's not anxiety like he's a bad person.
Yeah.
You're just like, "Whoa, well, this is weird." But the movie does a good job of putting you in Jay's head.
Yeah.
Which is, he seems like a nice guy, and he wants to play the little game that we play when we're waiting in line. Like my sister and I, we play a game like, who would you switch places with, all that kind of stuff. And then he gets really weirded out by something. So we leave and we go and we have sex. And then all of a sudden he knocks me out. And when I wake up, now this is what you were saying. She's bound, her wrists are bound to a wheelchair, and he essentially tells her, "You're in a horror movie. And this is the premise of the horror movie, and oh shit, it's happening right now," which is really unsettling. The whole thing is really unsettling. You feel how much danger she's in.
I think what makes it even more unsettling is because I do feel like they do make it seem like it's this nice. Like she's just talking. She's kind of just like she's casually kind of putting her clothes back on. She's kind of laying there.
Yeah, it's nice
after they've had sex, but he goes around to the back, and you are kind of like, what's he doing back there?
Right.
Like you are kind of wondering, but you're like, so there's a little bit of something, and then he goes in and chloroforms her, and it's such a 180. You're like, whoa.
Also, honestly, I mean, by the time that they had this, it's kind of tender. It's kind of like you're a teenager, so I'm like almost 50. I'm not going to sex in a car, but like you're a teenager. Exactly, you're a teenager, and also I'm not doing that to the upholstery, but you're a teenager. You're having this like classic teenage lose your virginity type of coming of age moment, et cetera, et cetera. I already kind of forgot that he was weirded out by something. In the movie theater, even though I already have a sense that the movie from the first scene is about something hunting someone. But I don't know, like I believed Jay. I believed this main girl, and she seemed like just a kid, like a nice girl from, a family of people that, her sister seems nice and stuff. And we'll talk about the parents in the movie in a little minute. But then it turns into, I think the first person that she sees that's following her is a naked woman.
Yes.
Who just walks very slowly, like across the parking lot, up the hill, into the building.
Yeah.
And he explains the rules, which is it's not dumb, but it's slow, but it will never stop. And you have to not let it kill you because you don't want to die, but also it'll go back up the line. I got it from somebody. I gave it to you. If it kills you, then it'll come and get me.
Yeah.
These are literally the rules of how this horror movie works. This is the monster. This is what it does. Which normally I'd say, can I have a little mystery? I don't need a little mystery. This really is very effective because it gives you all the stakes immediately. And of course, the part that sells it is if he had told her that was happening before he knocked her out after they had sex, she wouldn't believe him. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But we already know it's real because we saw the first part of the movie.
Yeah.
No one else will believe or understand her now.
I feel like it's I feel like there's a lot of stuff that they did in this movie that was that really lent to the authenticity of like the way he's explaining things. And there's a few other things that I want to talk about that happen later in the movie too, that just feels like if this kind of crazy premise was really happening, this is probably how it would probably how it would play out. He's telling her he's kind of nervous, but I feel like he's trying to explain it to her in a way that she believe. And honestly, he probably has her tied up because it isn't like he's putting her, because he doesn't want her to die. So it's not like he tied her up and left her there.
Right. He wants her to know this is real.
Yeah. So this is, I'm going to show you this.
I'm going to make you understand. And then we're going to get out of here.
Yeah. So he is, and it's very, and like you said, he's very clear on these are all the rules. So it's sort of like someone telling you like a game. It's like, here's the rules of the game and this is how you have to play it. And this is what you need to, he tells her everything she needs to know to survive.
Right.
And that is, it just felt very authentic to me.
I agree.
In that respect.
All the characters, which are kids in this movie, they feel like real kids, the way they talk, the way they behave, the things that they don't say to each other, like Keir Gilchrist, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's Paul. That's like the kid that grew up across the street. They've known each other, she and Jay, since Jay and Paul, since they were little kids. They've grown up together, and he has feelings for her, but he doesn't say anything, and it all just feels really like kids growing up stuff. Except it's also this really kind of very clever premise of a horror movie.
One of the things that I saw in an interview with David Robert Mitchell.
It's hard when they only have first names.
I know. One of the things that he did when he said when he was writing the character of Jay, that he didn't want her to be one of those final girls in a horror movie that kind of survived through like luck. He wanted her to sort of be sort of like grow in her agency. Like, and you see this, she's taking deliberate steps to survive. This isn't like she's just running and she's able to find a place to hide or do this, that. They are, and as you see later in the movie, they take very deliberate steps to try to survive. And I thought that the solutions they come up with are like, it's like perfect because they're not the best, and they don't have one of the things I do like, they don't lean on a nerd character that you see in a lot of the movies. Yep. They don't have they don't have that character that's like the smart one, that whether it's the old guy or it's the nerdy person who's studied the subject,
right,
that knows all about it, that says this is how you defeat this person. And even in a lot of those movies, they might give him that idea and then they try it and it fails.
Yep.
They don't even do that. They're like, we're going to try this method to get out of this situation. And
well, they basically only have the rules that she was told.
Yeah.
And then otherwise they're like, what do I do? And her friends, doesn't take them, I give them credit, doesn't take them a long time to be like, something is really bad that's happening. Yeah. They're not really sure, like, is she crazy? And if she's crazy, their reaction isn't, oh, we don't want that. They're like, oh my God, we want to help our friend. Something's really wrong. Then they figure out, because some stuff starts to happen to them. Like, you can't see it, but it can still grab you and throw you across the beach. Get out of the way kind of thing. Then they realize we're in danger. And like you said, their solutions are, they feel like real things real people would come up with. They're not stupid things. They're not super geniuses. They don't have a crutch. I don't know. There's for a movie that has such a kind of weird, dreamy vibe to it, a nostalgia vibe to it. It also has, I think, some very realistic depictions of the way these people would behave, which I think serves it well.
Well, I think it's interesting too, because his the director, I'm just going to call him the director so I don't have to say all three of his names. But he
Mr. Mitchell.
His first movie was like this, like really like low budget, like $30,000 coming of age film. I think it was called like The Myth of the American Sleepover or something that. It was, and that wasn't a horror movie. It was just like a and I think I feel like he kind of brought some of that sensibility to this movie, because there's no like hamming it up for the camera. You don't have like a crazy character. You don't have like these characters that you saw like in the movie Scream. You don't have like people making like meta references to horror movies. I don't think they made any kind of like pop culture references at all that I can remember.
Yeah, this film is in a series that I would call Reasons to Not Live in Detroit. That includes Don't Breathe, which also stars Daniel Zovatto, and Gran Torino, and probably 8 Mile. And honestly, some of the places that Michael Bay has filmed his movies in decaying stuff. Like this is shot in Michigan. It's shot and set in Detroit and the surrounding area, and it just feels like a decaying area around, like inside suburbia, because they talk later when they go to the pool. They talk about not being allowed to go south of 8 Mile, and that's like a different world and all that kind of stuff. And that region is what the vibe of a movie like Don't Breathe or even Gran Torino, that neighborhood is.
The difference in the suburban part of Detroit and the actual city, they do talk about that distinction. I think it's not it's something that we can relate to living here in Baltimore. There's a difference between Baltimore County and Baltimore City.
Sure.
And so it's like, I can really, when they talked about that, it's something that we can really relate to.
Well, we're both from this area, and that is, it's not to say it's exclusive to here, but there's something about these cities and the East Coast. Like, I grew up in Baltimore. I went to college in Philly, that sort of thing. They're very neighborhoody, and there are hard lines on a map that are really hard lines of like, you go here, you don't go there. This, not even a judgment thing, but it's like this these 6 square blocks are this, and these people live there, and this is the culture. It's like Little Italy is
It's
a
not even
distinct
like-
thing, but they're all like that.
It's not like this. That's not like we're saying that.
No,
We're
no,
just
that's-
saying
that's the way they're set
that's like
up.
it's like a cultural thing that
Yeah.
people will tell you, and they'll be like, "Oh, so you have like these suburban neighborhoods
It's very
in the
familiar,
county,
yeah.
and there's and even like certain areas in the county, you go a little bit and you all of a sudden can find yourself in the city, and people will be like, "Oh, you don't want to go there," and like, what?
Yeah, right, exactly.
And I think that's one of the things they were trying to talk about in this movie, and they talked about it in Nightcrawler. That was something that they mentioned.
Yes.
And sometimes it's whether you want to talk about it as a casual or even obvious racism, but that is like location geography is something that is I think used to I think in this one they're sort of playing with like there's a playing with the idea of safety in
Yes.
In the suburban area, and then when they travel later into the movie, I mean, I guess are they actually in the city? I mean, I know they were talking about it. I know where the guy lived was supposedly the city, or the Hugh character, where he was supposedly
in
hiding out.
one of the more rundown neighborhoods. Yeah.
So it sort of plays into that's something that people have these fears, whether they're irrational or not. It's something that's out there.
Well, there's a lot of location in this movie and the way that location is portrayed, because the movie is overall, I think in an effective way for a horror movie, but also in kind of just like an interesting way to experience viewing it, not just the first time, the whole time, every time. It's a mix of technology and things that is a little disorienting, because you've got people that have cell phones. You've got cars that are mostly from the 60s through the 80s. You've got CRT TVs, and yet one of the characters is reading a book on what looks like a flip phone clamshell makeup compact size, and she's reading The Idiot, Dostoevsky's The Idiot, on essentially what looks like a clamshell Kindle or something.
I don't think you see any cell phones though.
Are you sure?
I think
Doesn't she call her father at the first scene? Doesn't she call her dad on a cell phone?
Maybe.
I mean, the cell phones aren't critical to the story or the way that a lot of movies
you're
have
right.
ended up wrestling with, where like if the cell phone had service, we wouldn't have a movie. It's not like that kind of thing.
I do think that they that was one of the things I remember reading, that they were trying to not they wanted to sort of be intentionally disorienting when it came to what time frame or what era this was actually taking place,
and they do that effectively. It reminded me of movies that take a specific approach to give you a sense of a location as a feeling, as opposed to a specific, like, this is Detroit in 1999 or something like that, like Virgin Suicides or Ice Storm or something like that, where it's just, this is like, it's set in a real place, but I'm not really sure how real it is, because it mixes these things up, but also you don't really care because you're just kind of feeling the world that the characters live in feels real. It's a specific kind of film world building that I dig, I guess.
No, I hear what you're saying.
It's just done really well.
It's so one of the things that they did was that director Mitchell, he apparently got together with the cinematographer Michael. It's now I'm gonna yet again another cinematographer.
I told you, if they're good, it's hard for people to pronounce.
It's Geolakis. Geokalakis.
I was just listening, enjoying watching you.
There you go. I'm stumbling. I'm so terrible with names. I really do try. Anyway,
he does try. He tries as hard as Western audiences trying to read Indian actor names.
So they are. So one of the things they drew inspiration from is there's a photographer named Gregory Crutzen, who did he had a series of surreal suburban imagery. And apparently that was something that they were using as a visual reference for a lot of the stuff that they shot. And they wanted to create a world where like familiar environments feel threatening. So that's also a good play on.
Does that?
Yes. So it was a good play on, like, you have these suburban, which are, quote unquote suburban areas that are supposed to feel safe because it's drilled into our heads, especially people that grew up in the suburbs. They drilled in the head like that's the safe area, and they're playing on that, especially when we have scenes later in the movie where people are being followed through the suburbs,
right?
Whether it's in a hospital or a school or just the regular suburban neighborhood, and someone's like walking down the street because anybody that's grown up in the suburbs, if someone that you're not familiar with is just walking, especially the way the people that are the quote unquote monsters or supernatural forces down the street, it's when they're walking down the street and it's somebody that you don't recognize, that is, you're like, wait, who's that person? Like, especially if it's a tight knit community, you're like, oh, and, that's just a thing. I think that would happen to anybody, and maybe that's just my privilege of growing up in a suburban neighborhood. But you are like, I think that you would have that really in any kind of neighborhood. You're just like, if you see somebody that you don't normally see, you're like, hey, what's that? And I think it does play on that fear. You're like, this is supposed to be a familiar, safe area. And speaking of suburban, unfamiliar things, kudos to the actor that got naked and stood on top of a roof in a suburban neighborhood in broad daylight. That was, I don't know if they did some kind of trickery I have to go back and check the edits, but that was, and somehow that wasn't an actual roof in a suburban neighborhood, but it pretty much
real.
Looked like it. That is impressive, and I hope he got paid well.
Well, also,
for that.
I mean, keep in mind that the suburbs as a place to have a placid veil over like really dangerous or sick or bad things is not new. There's 60 years of movies and literature. I mean, you could be John Cheever. You could be. We talked about the Ice Storm, Blue Velvet, all these different kinds of things, and this is.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Right. It's everything, lots and lots of stuff. And this is, I think, a good addition to that canon.
Yeah.
As is weapons. I realized
that's true.
Weapons, our last episode, both weapons and It Follows, they share something. I would call it, because you're talking about how does something stand out in the suburbs as dangerous. They both have what I would call eerie human locomotion.
Okay.
One of them is running, the way the kids, especially the principal, running to the gas station, running down the streets of the town with your arms out like they're little wings, your eyes locked open. And in this movie, it's a figure walking, inexorably, steadily.
And sometimes
it's two different ways,
stumbling.
Right? Sometimes, but they keep going no matter what.
Yeah,
you literally have to run over the guy with a car. In weapons for him to stop, or you have to shoot him in the head. And in this movie, you can shoot him in the head, and they keep coming. So it's two different ways for people to move that are frightening, and two different ways to stand out in what is otherwise a normal day, which makes it more disconcerting.
Yeah,
they don't have to be naked; they could be walking straight across the school campus at you, and if you don't see it, but I see it in the audience, I'm unsettled by it.
Yeah.
And like it's you don't have to make a monster a super special effect. It's weird.
Yeah.
Like one of the monsters that when they're in Jay's house, that her friends open the door and there's a 7.5 foot tall creature with no eyes. That's a guy. That's just some real tall guy that they cast, and he's very big and imposing, and he doesn't fit in the hallway. But that's not a special effect, and it's really upsetting.
I should really say the suburbs as an illusion of safety.
Well, that's exactly right.
We do know that there's plenty of bad stuff that goes on there. The other thing too, as far as what they do, they shot the movie. Apparently 90% of the movie was shot with an 18 millimeter lens. So everything's in these wide shots, all in focus. So we were talking about like that opening scene where the character, who I don't believe was ever named, but she's looking out at her, I thought it was very effective for that shot because she parks her car and then goes onto the beach and she's looking out And there's something, it's so funny because there's nothing, they don't tell you, there's nothing to indicate that you should be looking behind the car. But I think it's because everything's in focus.
Yeah.
So it's, you have this deep focus and wide frame. And there's something about it that your eyes are like drawn to look behind the car because it is in focus.
Yeah.
Where that a lot of times they have that, that bokeh kind of like, the shallow depth of field, and you can't, and that would normally be kind of this like blurred out, and you wouldn't see that, but because you can see, you're like, you want to see what's is there something coming, and that was such it was such an interesting choice to do it that way.
Well, you know what the movie is doing right from that first sequence.
Yes,
it's training you. It's training you how to watch it because it has the deep focus. And it has those slow pans that either go across rooms or other spaces, and they train you and then reinforce for you that you and the audience should be on edge. You are searching everywhere for a figure to approach. When you find one, like when they go to Hugh's actual school and find his real name, there's a woman or a girl walking across the campus that you see as the camera spins around. You see her twice. But it doesn't call it out. You just see it because you see her walking at you, and then they get in a car, and you still see the woman is walking at the car from like across the grass or whatever. Sorry about the cat nails, and Kitty, and sorry, you have another leg. You'll be okay. And so they don't even see her, but we feel it. I mean, you're practically like, it's right there, it's right there. You know they're gonna back out, they're gonna drive away. They never knew, but the movie is training you to be. To feel that dread and to see that coming, because there's a lot of shots in the movie that are really beautiful, that really stand out. I said like the dolly in when they're fucking in the car, the way that it's lit is really like, it's a beautiful shot. Like if you were going to pick a shot out of the movie and say this would be a really just striking image for a poster that doesn't tell you anything about the premise of the movie, but it's striking. It's that sedan lit in that golden light that's from that shot when she's laying in the car. Afterwards, and she's like looking at the flowers growing out of the pavement, or she's on her knees when she's talking to the cops and looking at the ground, or there's close-ups of plates of food and dishes, what she did eat, what she didn't eat, and then later when they find Hugh and they're talking to him, she's lining up blades of grass on her leg. It looks like cutting scars. That kind of stuff. That's exactly like it's very striking stuff that it could be really showy and distracting. It all builds this vibe. I mean, it reminds me a lot of the feelings of being young without me having had her specific experience of losing my virginity and getting hunted by a monster and trying to fight for my friend's life.
It doesn't happen to everyone?
It happens to some of us. But my point is that like it's a specific look to the movie, which again, it's not a guy who's got 20 movies under his belt. And the cinematographer and the choices they make are really great.
Like, I love the scene. I feel like there's so much being told with just the camera work. Like the scene, and I can't remember which part in the story with the hospital where the camera comes and you're looking in all the different hospital rooms.
Yes.
And there's like there's like a family, and you see like and you like you see like there's a get well soon. Like you can tell like it's like probably like there's a kid in the one room.
That's I think she wakes up after she crashes the car because Daniel
Zovatto, she pieces out of the when she leaves them all at the house at the beach house, and she's like, I'm out. Man.
Yeah, because Daniel Zovatto, who's a kid who lives across the street, he's a great actor. He was also in Don't Breathe.
Okay.
And he's in Woman of the Year, which was the Netflix movie based on the real case of the guy, the serial killer who was in a dating game with Anna Kendrick. Great movie, like really, really suspenseful. And he is really upsetting in that. Again, not because you see him like bloodily murdering and torturing people for 2 hours, but because he's just really, really intense and weird and unsettling. And while still being like a handsome guy, which makes it more upsetting. And so they go to his family's house, and the monster follows them there. And that's a great scene where nobody sees the monster coming, and then all of a sudden her hair, if you're not her hair is suddenly standing straight up, and we see that the woman, the monster's in the figure of a girl who's holding her hair up. And then she, as you said, she gets in the car, she dumps them, she drives off,
they're all
then
running,
she
they're
runs
like,
off the road. She wakes up in the hospital, and that's where she decides in the hospital, okay, I am going to have sex.
Yeah.
Like she told them all the rules.
Yeah.
Like Keir Gilchrist, Paul is already like, will help you if you
course,
want to give me some evil. And she's like, no, we're good. So she has sex with the hot guy that lives across the street, and he gets the curse, and then he actually ends up getting, not long after, getting killed by the creature as his mother. Which is the whole thing.
That was very
unsettling.
disturbing. Yes,
it's very unsettling.
You're like, what?
And the whole time that the movie is drawing us into this specific sort of time of our nostalgia and memories, while also crossing the actual time that it's playing in with different cars and technology and stuff like that. It's doing this very distinct style of cinematography and shots that you just talked about, but it's also doing slow zooms and things like Halloween and other horror movies from 30 or 40 years earlier. And the music is by Disasterpeace, and it's very synthy and it's very effective. And that could easily be music from a Giallo or from a John Carpenter movie or something like that. But it doesn't. I could forgive someone if they saw this movie and they love horror movies and they've seen all those movies and they're like, it's just a jigsaw puzzle of all these things, because it is. But it's also more than that. It adds up to, I think, what they're trying to do, which is a feeling and an unsettling tone.
Yeah.
And it does it very effectively. And, for a movie to have so many distinct images that aren't just like the girl on the beach with her leg broken in half, it's dead. That's pretty striking. Yeah. But I don't think of that image when I think of the movie as much as I think of the car.
Yeah.
Or the blades of grass on her leg. Or somebody who isn't naked and covered in blood walking slowly at the camera.
Yeah.
And the way that the creature works, then years later, I don't know how much of a Doctor Who fan you are and how much you watch, but there's the monsters called the Weeping Angels.
Yes.
Those are those statues.
Yeah.
And you have to watch them. Don't blink.
Yes.
You have to watch them because they will approach you.
Yes.
In the moments when you can't see them. So like if it's dark, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But if you're in a scene where they're hunting you, you literally like look and then look back, they're closer and their claws are out and all that kind of stuff. This doesn't care.
Yeah.
You don't have to see it coming, and it will still come and grab your hair and try to kill you, kind of thing. But it comes slowly no matter what.
Yeah.
And that's really scary.
It's I feel like there is a lot of references to like you said to these older movies. The music by Disasterpeace. It's I right after I saw the movie, I downloaded the soundtrack.
That's fun.
It's definitely evokes sort of that 70s, 80s horror. They apparently intentionally were referencing like the John Carpenter.
Sure.
And
also, you and I grew up in the 70s and
yes.
80s. So being a young person, like I was 13 in 1989. So I remember feeling these feelings, thinking these things about girls, and, when they talk about finding dirty magazines and this is my friend that I now feel differently about. It felt very authentic.
Oh, yeah.
But it also felt authentic to the period of time that we grew up in.
It is funny because it's like, I mean, just, and I don't know if things are like this anymore, but I do feel like everybody I knew growing up had some story of finding some like random like dirty magazine,
right?
And like, of course, like
some of them might have been true. Who knows?
I found like the most like random dirty magazine. My dirty magazine story is lame. I found one called Leg Show, and it was nothing but women. It was just legs. It wasn't even anything good. It was like just legs in stockings. And I was like, but that's what I found.
But they didn't have like jeans on or anything, right? So nice.
Yeah, it was
good
like,
find.
I know. I was like, God damn, I found Leg Show? What the hell? But back to Disasterpeace.
I mean, you could have found Knuckle Show. I guess that wouldn't have been as fun.
That's true.
Not Moose Knuckle Show, just Knuckle Show.
But Disasterpeace, here's a bit of trivia you may not have known.
It's a lot of trivia I don't know.
I know. The Disasterpeace, after doing this movie, were offered to do the music for Stranger Things. And
Oh, really?
they turned it down because they didn't want to get pigeonholed. So,
Okay.
because I hate when I get pigeonholed.
Yeah.
So
That's a different magazine, Scott.
I never found that one.
Yeah.
So
You had to
that
really
was,
look out for that one.
yikes.
Kids say, I don't know how hard it was.
That sounds like a. Anyway. But really, as far as overall, though, I think that they just like the way that the look that they pulled off for this. I mean, like, I know there are movies out there that were made for 10 times, 20 times, 30 times the budget that don't pull off the sort of this kind of aesthetic, this look that because it just had a very distinct feel to it. You know, some of these movies that you see nowadays that they're so just generic. Like when it comes to the overall look, I'm not talking about the story or anything like that, but just
the look.
The look. I feel like
Like all Marvel movies pretty much look the same, and that look is not exciting.
I feel like that there was a that the what they were trying to do technically was working really well with the story they were trying to tell. So I mean, whether you think the story was great or not, you know, whatever. But I feel like at least what they were trying to do and trying to what the story they were trying to tell, all of the technical stuff was working together with it, because it was very intentional. It wasn't just we're just trying to get coverage on these shots and we're trying to
Right.
get these two people talking and we just want that to flow together. It was we're doing these wide shots, and apparently now I never noticed this, but from what I read, they said that a lot of horror movies after this were were emulating sort of like the really wide shots. Now that's not necessarily something that I paid attention to or noticed, but I had more power to them if that was something that they kind of kicked off a sort of a movement in horror movies to be more aesthetically pleasing when it came to cinematography. That's great.
Well, it was also visually very consciously about more than, which is this, what I'm about to say is a completely legitimate goal in making a movie and a horror movie. It's not just how can we make this scary. It's again those feelings, like the memories that this brought up in me and a lot of people that grew up, not just because I grew up in that era, but also because of the way that it portrays it. Like there's a lot of elements in the story about crossing from childhood to adulthood.
Yes.
And a lot of elements that cross back and forth, and changing relationships with your friends that you grew up with, paying a price, sometimes a terrible price, for having sexual intercourse. Sexual intercourse is a step into adulthood. She flees her home when the danger really appears. Where does she go? She goes to the playground. And she sits on the swings and she's got her bare feet in the sand and she's like trying to be a kid again and get away from it. While she's doing that, she's sitting in the exact shot that you were talking about, looking out at the night.
Yeah.
It's very wide. It's very sharp. And we're, of course, reverse cuts to her and we're like, are you looking behind you? What's behind you? This is a problem.
Yeah.
And part of what I think is also, because it commits to that perspective, I don't really remember noticing this as consciously. Do you ever see any of the adults really? Do you ever see any of their parents' faces?
Very casual. Yeah.
It's very Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Like it's very focused on the kids' perspectives,
It
and
looks like
effective.
the mom has a drinking problem, is what I assume.
Yeah, there's things you can pick up about
Yeah.
their childhood homes
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But the only time you see a parent that's like, "That's my mom," is when it's not your mom. It's a monster that's going to kill you.
Yeah.
and is very naughtily looking when it does that.
And I guess that maybe is sort of intentional as far as when you look at, as we were saying, when it comes to crossing over into adulthood, where it's like you're becoming the person that sort of like takes care of yourself. You're not really reliant on your parents to, do all the stuff the parents normally do. So you're not seeing them. They're not making them dinner. They're not making they're not doing all those things that you normally see parents do for their kids.
You're also watching cartoons while one of your friends is on a CRT TV, an old tube TV, while your friend is reading Dostoevsky on her e-reader makeup clamshell compact thing. So it's a lot of crossing those things back and forth together, which I don't know. It really, as you could tell, like I don't love this movie, but the vibe and the mood that it builds, I think is very effective and is very satisfying to experience. And also, I mean, again, a lot of it for me personally is the setting that it paints. I don't know if you ever watched The Americans.
No, I have not.
Fantastic show. Really fantastic. Another, like, underneath the placid exterior of the suburbs is a war of spies and people that are really Russian spies that are not your neighbors and their kids, and do their kids even know, and all that sort of stuff. But it's set in, like, basically Bethesda, Silver Spring, Rockville in the 80s outside of DC.
Maryland.
I mean, that looks like the houses that I grew up in. Like, it's literally, those are the neighborhoods. Mine were outside of Baltimore, but it's the same architecture, the same feeling, the same vibe, the same everything. This is Detroit, but it's still a very familiar sort of feeling to it. And you even see the next generation when you first see Maika Monroe's character, Jay. She's laying in the above ground pool in the backyard, and she's just floating, and there's some kids, and she goes, "I see you," and they're like if she's 17, then they're the 12-year-olds next door or something, and they're peeking at her, and they run away. Like, it all feels very real, except there's also a monster.
One of the things that I think, and I hear what you're saying too, that this isn't like something that I would go out and say this is like my favorite horror movie. I think the thing that I liked about the movie was that it just felt authentic to just sort of like the teen experience.
Yes.
And it just put in like a weird circumstance, unusual circumstance. And that was one of the things that I was saying about the ending, when they do decide that they're going to try to, or when they come up with their plan of how they're going to stop.
When they go to the pool.
They go to the pool, and just the idea of what they did, where they're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get all these electric devices, and we're just going to kick them all into the pool. We're going to get the to go into the water, and then we're just going to kick all the electrical stuff into the pool and electrocute it. And that is such a
but we're going to bait it into the pool to kill it with our friend, who's the only one who can see it, who would be in the pool. And also you might worry about killing her, but.
And that's why it felt so authentic, because it wasn't super well thought out, wasn't the greatest plan, and that was like, they have they didn't throw the expert character in there,
right?
No wise old character, no super nerd character
nobody said, well, this isn't going to have enough voltage to really kill your monster, and
or the person that was like, well, I've been studying like the Tobin spirit guide, and this is how you would actually kill this thing. They were just like, you know what? I guess we could electrocute it. So let's get. I mean, they had like hair dryers and toasters.
Everything.
And like, here's a little TV, and we're
which
just gonna
then it turns into weapons, and it starts throwing them at her and hits her, and it's
so
like that scene it's very intense.
Not only did it fail, it failed spectacularly, because not only did they did it just not work, it starts using it as weapons against them.
Yep.
Now that was supposedly her father that she sees at the end.
The guy that gets in the pool and holds her down and stuff?
That's why she says she doesn't want to say when they ask her.
Oh, right.
I know, because that was something.
Who do you see? I don't want to say right.
Yes,
right.
And I didn't. That's something that I didn't really, because they do show a picture of the father.
Yeah, I didn't pick that up until you said that.
Yeah, I didn't.
11 years after I first saw it.
That was a little bit, and I think so. These are a few things that I picked up afterwards that they're saying that it's implied, which I did not pick up, so maybe I'm just dumb, but that the father committed suicide and the mother became an alcoholic because of that. So that's what they're saying. So maybe.
I don't know if it's implied or not. I didn't pick up that
I didn't pick
level
that
of depth,
up either.
But there's clearly these
children's
family has been fractured in some way that seems, divorce, death,
yes,
something.
That's what I got out of it, is the father's no longer in the picture for some reason, and it had a negative impact on the mother. Right. That's all I got out of that.
Well, does that mean it was him sitting on the roof? Because maybe he jumped off the roof?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Because it would be certainly horrifying to see your dad naked on the roof of a suburban neighborhood.
Especially if he already died from something up there.
Yes. It would be horrifying.
I feel like I like this movie.
Yes.
It is a good movie.
Uh-huh.
I feel like the first, 2/3 or so is significantly stronger than the ending.
I agree.
It doesn't mean the ending is bad or wrong. I feel like by the time you get to the pool and their plan and everything, it's kind of less interesting. That whole scene is kind of crazy because like they figure out they can actually throw a sheet over it and see it.
Yeah.
But he's already shot his friend in the leg. Like don't point your guns at people that are that you don't want to shoot. But the big thing, I don't know if generally people liked or didn't like it. Mm-hmm. The fact that the movie kind of stops more than ends.
Yes.
Which I don't think is the wrong choice automatically. Like, because again, all the whole experience of these kids feels emotionally authentic.
Well, what do you think about that?
Well, because at the end they're basically like Paul and Jay do end up having sex.
Yeah.
And then they ask that question that if you had sex and you didn't think it or ask it or whatever the other person is, do you feel any different? Do you? You're a grown up now. You're an adult now. So now they walk down the street. They're holding hands.
Yeah.
Something is still following
them.
Look,
I guess
like, is that the monster? I think so, because you're going to continue to be chased or followed or something. The consequences of your decisions, whether we're talking about, you had sexual intercourse in your friend's den or you're going to die or whatever.
Yeah.
Like life goes on. The story doesn't really end.
Yeah.
I don't know that's that interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
it doesn't feel
a little bit
wrong, but it does feel like it stops.
Like for the most part, I feel like that the film understood what it was. I feel like it did a fairly good job executing its vision, but you're right. At the very end, you're kind of like, well, okay. Like when the credits go, it is one of the few times when the credits come up and you do go, wait a minute, what? Sometimes that happens.
Not in a way I felt cheated. I was just like, okay. Like you said, okay.
You're just like, all right, well, so, okay, I guess that's the end of that. Now, I have heard that there is a sequel in the works, but I'll be honest, I don't really know if I want a sequel to this because what I'm afraid of, what happens in a lot of these sequels is that they start to... I feel like I was doing a little Quentin Tarantino there. So here's what happens in these movies from I'll quote the famous Italian director Antonio Margheriti,
or Gran Torino.
But what I do feel like they'll over-explain it, and it'll be like they'll give you too much of the origin of what, and it'll be like aliens or some dumb shit. Like that'll be an ancient artifact that's buried in the.
Right. There's some magic explaining.
Yeah, and you'll be like, I could have done without that. I guarantee you, if this comes out, I'm saying this now definitively, if they actually go through with the sequel, I don't know if they started shooting it or not. I thought it was supposed to come out this year.
I thought so too, but
we're kind of running out of time.
Run out of year.
I am saying
because time goes on and on as we learn from this movie.
That's what we've heard. I'm going to say that it will not be, at least will not be as good.
Well, you know what it's called, right?
It follows.
Apparently, it's called They Follow.
Oh,
I came up with other titles.
Yes,
I think you could call it It Follows, but the T in it is the number 2.
Okay.
You could call it Still Follows.
Okay.
You could be more accurate and say It Still Follows Slowly.
Okay.
You could reverse it and call it Follow It. Or you could relate more to the broader definitions of what sexual awakening experience is now and just call it It Swallows.
Okay. Or
I don't need a sequel to this movie.
I don't need a sequel either. Or they could call
if they make it, I'm sure I'll see it. But
how about It Follows with a Z, and you have like Exhibit like be in it, and he goes, "I heard you like your movies. I heard you like your movies with people following people, so we give you more people following people, and you're following movie peoples."
Gonna really trick that horror movie out.
Yeah, we're gonna trick it out.
At least the guy who made this movie is writing and directing the sequel.
Okay,
so
maybe
there may be, but on the other hand,
you're telling me there's a chance.
Listen, I mean, there are movies that I have loved.
Yes,
that have like this is, to me, this is a movie where the lives of the characters continue, and of course the monster can continue indefinitely, because if you pass it on, then it'll follow somebody else. If that person dies, it'll come back for you. It doesn't need a sequel.
Yeah,
the characters feel real and are still alive today if they haven't been killed by the monster, or by the monster having killed whoever they sleep with, or whatever. There are also movies like, I love the movie District 9.
Yeah.
That movie is primed for a sequel.
Uh-huh.
We haven't had one.
Yeah.
That movie came out in 2009. And everything else that the director has made since then, of varying levels of genuine quality, has been nowhere near that.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we ever need to see sequels to everything.
Yeah.
If you make me choose what would I like to see, I mean, I've got my own ideas of what I think would work for District 10 or Return to District 9 or whatever you want to call it. This movie doesn't scream out at me, it's got to have more to say. I'd be curious to see it, but I'm not dying to see it.
District 9 2.
Right, exactly. Well, but see, also, when you said then the credits start, with, continuing to have good music, the credits do some things that I thought were actually kind of sweet. I don't know if you noticed this. Every extra is named.
Oh, really?
Every single one. If you look on IMDb, it's got the list of all of the names of all of the extras, and then they have the thank yous, which a lot of these movies, especially the indie movies, have thank yous to people and places and businesses. It goes on and on and on. They thank everybody. It's kind of sweet. Like every business, every person who owns the business, every family member, every Aunt Nancy's neighbor's cousin, like everything. It's kind of nice. So the movie is it doesn't have the homemade, I don't know how to make a movie feel of a Clerks or something, but it does have a very personal stamp to it.
It was only
even all the way through the credits, which was kind of nice.
The budget was $1.3 million.
I believe it, and they did an awful lot with it.
Yeah, and it ended up making like $23 million, which modest, but
impressive.
I mean that's pretty good considering the budget. So.
Now, also the other thing is, what do these people go on to do? And Keir Gilchrist, who played Paul, he's in Atypical, and it's kind of a funny story and a bunch of other stuff. I think he's a fine young actor. The guy who played Hugh.
Yes. I've seen. Yeah, he looks familiar.
Hold on, I'm totally blanking on his name. He's good. He's been in a few other things. I have to scroll up the list of the cast, and it's just all these extras. Jake Weary is his name. He is actually the son of Kim Zimmer, who was all of our older fans will be all excited because Kim Zimmer played Reva Shane on Guiding Light for a million years. So he's soap opera royalty.
Okay.
And then, of course, the big breakout type of person is Maika Monroe.
Yes.
And Maika Monroe was in, this was 2014. I want to say 2 years later, she was in The Guest.
No, she was actually in The Guest.
This is the same year.
She auditioned for this movie while she was filming The Guest.
Oh, okay. The Guest is an absolute blast of a movie.
Yeah, it's so goofy.
Adam Wingard's
I
movie.
love
his version of it, basically an 80s action movie. It's great.
I love when he goes was it Dan Stevens when he goes into the
fresh off of Downton Abbey. Yep.
When he goes into the principal's office and basically says, "You're not going to suspend him. In fact, we're going to sue you for a hate crime." It's like, because it's like it was so out of left field. Like I just thought he was just going to be like an asshole to the principal, but he's like, "Well, we're going to sue you for a hate crime." I was like. What is this movie?
That's
crazy.
Another very small movie with a very distinct vibe and great performances, all this kind of stuff. And then Maika Monroe, who I think is a very good actress, has gone on to do things that are not good, but they're not good because of her.
Yeah.
Like she did that movie Greta, which isn't good.
Okay.
She did that movie Watcher, which people loved.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really boring. She's in Independence Day Resurgence, which is also technically a motion picture. But she was the star, I guess, of a movie that I thought she was good in that I hated.
Yeah.
Called Long Legs.
Yes.
Which everybody that loves that movie,
I
fucking love it. And I was like, this is so bad. And when it was
I think that
so
movie
bad
had,
after the first half an hour, it just got worse. So
part of me wants to see it now because I've heard people say that like,
oh, you haven't seen it? You should totally see it.
But people are like, they're like, I don't know who did the marketing for that movie.
Oh, they're geniuses.
They should win an award because
oh
the
my
movie
God.
is not as good as everybody says it is.
Oh yeah. No, the marketing is amazing, and the marketing goes a long way for a tiny little horror movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, no. So I mean, she's good, and I hope she continues to work. I have no reason to think she won't. They'll probably make a Long Legs 2 or something really annoying like that. Maybe they'll cover her face in white paint, and she'll do the Nicolas Cage role. I don't know.
Extra long legs.
Extra long legs.
Long legs with a Z.
Yeah. Right. There you go. So that's It Follows. It Follows is a small horror movie from 11 years ago that if you haven't seen it, I think is definitely worth a look. Hopefully you saw it before we spoiled everything. But the premise of the movie is in the opening scene.
Yes.
And then explained in the first act when, she loses I guess it's her virginity, but she loses her virginity.
Yeah.
And then gets chloroformed.
Yeah.
So it's all there. Like it's not a mystery of what's happening in this movie type of horror movie. It's a mystery of it's a suspense of how are we going to survive this, and it's well done.
Yes. So that's pretty much a wrap on It Follows, and this is episode 2 in our Halloween series that we're doing, our horror movie series. We got some more coming up. We got Heretic, Bodies, and the Friday the 13th series with a focus on Jason X.
And a special bonus episode.
Which is what?
I don't know, but it's not going to be Long Legs.
No, but that will be Jason X will come out the day before Halloween, and it'll be our special lucky 13th episode.
I love it.
And just for all of our social media, we have a Instagram page, a Storypunk Pod. And then you can find all updates when the episodes drop and other random crap there. Not crap. I did not mean to say crap. You can check out Storypunk on...
Have some respect for the people making this stuff.
Put respect on my name. And check out Storypunk on Substack if you like to read. And also...
We do support reading.
Yes, we do.
Because of the occasional book report format.
That's right. And also you can check out our Facebook page for all you boomers out there. And I should stop saying that. And then
we're old also, so
yes,
stop
that is true. And I am on Letterboxd as Storypunk Scott, and Drew is on Letterboxd as well. You can
Solid
Gould, and the Solid Gould Dancers will not be making an appearance on there, but maybe when we get this up on YouTube, which should be coming hopefully soon. And other than that, I guess that's a wrap on the whole episode. And remember, story matters.